So talk to me a little bit about your early musical influences.
Oh, that's always a really tough question. I'm usually influenced by, musically, if we're talking about bands that I listen to, it really depends on what I'm listening to at the time. And I go through phases where I get really obsessed with certain artists, and then I'll lose that and I'll move on to something different. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who, like, when I really get into I love full-length records. I love really good full-length records. So when I get into something that's really good, I'll play it about 50 times in a row. And everybody around me hates it, but I'm just totally digging it. So, big influences for me that I can pull from. I'd say David Bowie's a pretty big influence. I'm a huge fan of Wilco and Jeff Tweedy's other projects. I've been listening to a lot of George Harrison, Harry Nilsson, Billy Joel. No, it's probably. And then early on, I have a lot of more, heavier and like punk rock influences. I mean, maybe like Fugazi or Sonic Youth, Blonde Redhead, things like that have also been huge influences. How about you, Tony?
Oh, do I have to answer that question as well? I was going to leave that one to Keith. I think that's the interesting thing about the band is we all share some influences, right? Like, who doesn't like David Bowie? And I think we all, are inspired by bands like Wilco and what they're doing. But I find there's a really interesting mix of influences where, like JR, pedal steel player, is super into bands like Crosby, Stills and Nash, and like a lot of that kind of like mid-70s progressive rock. And I like that stuff as well, but personally, like just, the kind of music that inspired me to start playing would be more like, like stuff like The Clash or, I play the trumpet, but my favorite type of music is rock and roll, and so it's like, it's interesting, it's hard to find places where there's that intersection, and, like, lately I've been listening to Beirut a lot, the new stuff that he's putting out, and I just think it's really cool. Like, it sounds a lot different than what we're doing, but just the way that he's like taking unusual instrumentation, in his particular case the horn, and like, but finding a way to integrate it into like a rock format, I think that's awesome.